Welcome to the Chuck Shoot Podcast. Today my guest is actor Keith Coogan. So if you grew up a child of the 80s, you definitely saw Keith on TV. He made guest appearances on all the biggest TV shows: Mork and Mindy, Growing Pains, Love Boat, Laverne and Shirley, Fantasy Island, Little House on the Prairie, Knight Rider, Chips, my personal favorite, Silver Spoons. And then he started doing movies like Adventures in Babysitting, Book of Love, Toy Soldiers, and of course, Don't Tell Mom, The Babysitter's Dead. Even if you're not a fan of any of these shows or movies, or you've never heard of them, I still think this is an interesting interview, just talking about the movie and TV business, his legendary grandfather, Jackie Coogan, who was Uncle Fester on Addams Family. We talk about child actors and just all sorts of interesting stuff. So enjoy this. Hi, how's it going? Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on.
Keith Coogan, this is amazing. If my 12-year-old, 13-year-old self could see me now talking to like a movie star, it's amazing. It's really cool.
Well, I appreciate that. You know, movie star is very subjective here in LA.
I guess so.
What tier you are, what network, how last movies you did. And frankly, I just love the art of doing. I love doing it. I love making movies, and I love make people laugh.
Yeah. Movies, TV, acting. You did stand-up.
I did do stand-up. Once debut went well. Second time bombed terribly. So learning on the stand-up process. A lot more writing to do. Yeah,
actually, because I interview a lot of stand-up comedians, and bombing is definitely part of the process. I mean, every comedian I've talked to bombs still. Like, even when they make it big, they'll still go out and have those times where they bomb. So I think that's part of the thing with stand-up.
Yeah, it really is acknowledging the elephant in the room. Being right in the moment. You can't always have a locked act. And I'm fine in front of people. Groups of people, my God, I turn on. It's that, oh, you're on stage now and you're the, you're the entertainment for the next type 5. It's tough. It is an art form.
Yeah.
I recognize a lot of actors and actresses will use, or comedians and writers will use stand-up as a means to an end to get that TV show or, movie career. And, it is a skill in and amongst itself that is not easy to do at all. And I do not brand myself a stand-up comic at all. But I had even the MC on the second show where I bombed. She goes, you're really more like a storyteller. Although Kato Kalin was also at that show and he killed it. He's amazing.
Interesting.
Hire Kato.
Okay. Didn't know that. So
put him in front of any group, any audience, give him 45 minutes and this guy could hold the room. It's amazing.
So like I said, I was a fan of yours growing up. But then, when I booked you for this show, I started doing the research. I had no idea your grandfather was this famous child actor. Can you talk about that? I know you like talking about your grandfather, Jackie Coogan. Can you tell our listeners that whole story? Because I didn't even know I had no idea about that.
Sure. He was born into vaudeville parents and discovered by Chaplin and put in The Kid, which was Chaplin's first feature length. Worldwide hit. Launched a young career for him in movies and merchandising, a lot of merchandising. He made a couple millions as a young actor. This is in the teens and 20s in Hollywood. And by the time he'd grown up and went for his money, his father had passed in a terrible car accident that killed everyone in the car but Jack, or Jackie, as I call him. And his mother remarried and his parents took all of his money. So California passed a law known as the Coogan Act, or the Child Actors Bill. And you're supposed to put a percentage aside. It could be different per projects and stuff. But 15% is the minimum.
That's a great,
it's helped people.
Yeah.
It also hasn't. I know Corey, Gary Coleman and Macaulay Culkin have had issues where their trust amount that should have been put aside because of what my grandfather went through did not happen. So there's still issues. And then he also, he carried on in Hollywood, married Betty Grable, fought in the war.
He was Uncle Fester.
Had a comeback at 50.
Yeah.
Who's 50 and has the cheeks, right? I'd love to play Fester. Oh my God, it was me. I heard Tim Burton was remaking it as a series, and Tim Burton worked on The Fox and the Hound, and I was the voice of the young fox.
Yes, that's right.
You got to make this happen.
Right. No, definitely. And wasn't your grandfather also, he was in an episode of the Brady Bunch. It was that one where they get in the car wreck and he puts on the neck brace and he pretends that he got hurt or whatever, but it was all, that was your grandfather.
Yes. One of the most hated men on television.
Yeah. That was an iconic episode. I feel for me as a kid. Yeah.
They snuck him back on another episode where, I don't know, Jan had run away or something.
Okay.
And Alice wound up knocking on some rando guy's door, and it was my grandfather for a quick little scene.
Oh, yeah.
He wound up doing like Partridge Families and Lucy shows, a lot of game shows. He used to brag he did 1,000 TV appearances.
Wow. So it was, yeah. And it was like when you were like 4 or 5, you decided that you wanted to be an actor. And your mom's like, she knew the business. So she's like, okay, well, this is the way you're going to do commercials. Then you're going to do TV shows, and then you're going to do movies. And that's exactly what happened. So like, it doesn't always happen that way. But so how did you talk about getting started? Like, how did you know at such a young age that you wanted to do that? I
saw kids on TV on Zoom, which is kind of like a Sesame Street electric company. The Boston show. You familiar with Zoom?
No, that must have been a little bit before my time.
The kids host it, the kids do the titles, the kids had different segments, and they would rotate the cast as the kids started to get older, whatever. Most Zoom actors would be on for a year or two, and they just looked like they were having so much fun.
Yeah.
And I saw we also had a show called Via Alegre, which was like a half Spanish language children's show.
Okay.
New Zoo Review, Electric Company, Sesame Street. Anytime I saw kids on television having fun, I said, that looks fun. I want to be on TV. And my mom kind of explained the career route. Well, first you have to do commercials. And then I said, I don't want to do that. I just want to go on that show or whatever. And she goes, okay, well then, that's fine. So it was months later that I like bounded into the room and said, okay, and I started doing or singing some commercial jingle or something. And I said, okay, I'm ready to, if I have to, I'm ready to do commercials. And my mom was, she knew the business and how not normal it is, especially for a child. It's hard enough as an adult being an actor.
So do you have to,
child.
Yeah. Do you have to take like acting lessons, or did you just learn by just going through all these auditions and things? Or did somebody teach you like how to act and how to do all these things?
That's a great question. I think I was a natural because I could read really well.
Okay.
And cold read stuff. I'd look at a page of dialogue and go, got it. And I had learned from, I did start to understand who my grandfather was. We were in I think Sacramento at the time, and we just didn't see him that often. And I didn't understand at 4 or 5 years old what, any of that stuff was. So as I started working more and more and more, I think I first did an unpaid gig as a stand-in on a McDonald's. For some reason, I never got paid. And that's how my mother found my agent, asking around and stuff. And it's like, oh, Don Schwartz will take care of you. And that's putting me up on a bunch of commercials and stuff under my birth name, Mitchell.
Mitchell, right, yeah.
Because my mom did not want me to get parts just for the Coogan and the nepotism. And I thought that's...
Yeah, and weren't you kind of estranged from your grandfather at the time?
No, that's a lie. I've said it before. My mom said that she wasn't really estranged, just that we weren't spending a lot of... We went back to Palm Springs and stuff, and I remember,
Did he give you advice or anything, or any tips, or...
No, watch your money. Be careful of your mother.
It's good advice.
Be careful of mothers in general, and I didn't have to worry about that because my mother was pretty closely watched. Can you imagine the headlines? Jackie Coogan's daughter takes grandson's money. So she was really good with the money and letting me know what it was worth. So, I'm 8 or 12 or whatever and have chores and an allowance, and I can earn 5, 10, as I was getting older, maybe 14 and 15 years old, I was earning like $15 a week. If I mowed the lawn and did the dishes and, picked up the dog poop and emptied the trash and vacuumed and all that good stuff. So I understood when I see my paychecks for, $1,000 a week or whatever it was back then. And then I'm like, oh, I can take home 15 and I know how much that's worth in candy and arcade games. It's very clear now. I'm like seeing the kind of the dollar amounts. It also was. It's not about that. It's not about making money. You don't work that often.
Mm-hmm.
You get paid well for, the union minimums are mostly good. Minimums are
Yeah.
fantastic. If you could work every day, that would be great at that money. And that's the goal as an actor,
Yeah. But, and you
is to
started,
do enough
yeah,
work.
you did a
Whatever. There's
lot.
some that
Yeah.
pay more and some that don't, to make a living.
Yeah, I mean, I
And
think
keep the lights on.
you did like every 80s TV show, like Chips and Knight Rider, Laverne and Shirley, Mork and Mindy. I mean, just the list is amazing. This is kind of interesting too. Like in 1980, it was down to you and River Phoenix for the show Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, and you actually backed away because of where the filming location. So you inadvertently gave River Phoenix his first big break, right?
I don't even know inadvertently. I think we weighed both things. My little brother was due to be born in December, and my mom really wanted to do a natural birthing thing in LA. It's in a hospital. We're just outside the room with all the machines and stuff, but there's wallpaper and like a rocking chair and no machines or monitors. It's called Alternate Birthing Center. She'd already arranged this. And so we're, months away from that. But she goes, I really don't want to give birth up in NorCal. Nothing personal against Northern California. Just she kind of made these arrangements. And we love River and we love his family. And he's, obviously incredibly talented. And I was, very on it. It was a Disney based kind of a thing. That kind of family entertainment. I think River has a lot more depth. He also had the chops for singing and playing guitar. I couldn't play guitar. I could barely carry a tune. They're like, we'll dub you in or something. That's the thing. You can go with one actor who's, their strengths and weaknesses. I couldn't really tell you what River's weaknesses were.
Yeah.
But whatever reason where it was really close for me, I know that we backed out of it and said, I think it would be what a great opportunity for him. And at this point, and I know that's kind of jaded saying it, but it was just another show for me. And we had family stuff and I told him, I'm young, I'm 12 or whatever,
right.
13 or I don't know. I don't remember how young I was.
Yeah. So you were a fan of a lot of these shows that you were on, like you watched them. Like, were you a fan of Silver Spoons? You got to tell me about this. Like, what was the set of that place like? Because I think every kid wanted to do the remote control door, ride the train, play the video games. Is all that just fake stuff? Like, is it cardboard video games or is it real?
Yeah, you can ride the train. You can. The video games were real. They had a dip switch to turn off the sounds because the sounds would be really loud in the studio.
Yeah.
But you could turn them on at lunch, and free credits and all that stuff. There was the mansion set, and really for us it was Rick Sings. Oh yeah, right next to the mansion set was this cafe. It was like because that's what teenagers do is they go to the cafe.
Right. Okay.
And Rick was the manager of a rock band, and the lead singer got laryngitis right before their big on TV, screen debut for like a Battle of the Bands. So Rick jumps in and sings, and it was Billy Jacoby, now Billy Jane, Alfonso Ribeiro,
who's Carlton from Fresh Prince, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Corky Pigeon as Freddie.
Yeah.
Lippin. I can't remember.
Yeah, he was the nerdy kid. Yeah, I remember. Yeah. Wow, that's
remember
cool.
Derek?
Yes, Justin Bateman.
No, the other Derek. He was the tough kind of redneck bully friend of Rick Stratton.
Oh,
you remember him? He would usually come in like with groups of guys.
Yeah, didn't he have like the sleaveless jean vest or something? Yeah, God, I haven't seen that show in forever.
And it had Amy Dolan's one of her first jobs. Was on Silver Spoons, and my aunt had taught Mickey Dolenz how to play drums for the Monkees because he was a guitar player and she played drums, but she was left-handed, so Mickey Dolenz learned on a left-handed kit. Weird things when you grow up in Hollywood.
Yeah,
I tell you that.
I guess so. Like being on all these different TV shows, like you're working with all these legends. Like, are you kind of taking notes in your head as a kid, like what works, what doesn't work? Different ways these actors prepare and things like that, or?
Oh, sure. I mean, it's growing up in a kind of show folk family. We know that it's not brain surgery. You're not solving cancer. You're not bringing food to, a community. It's but it's something that people really do turn to. you're not solving cancer. Let's just put it that way. It's just movies. It's only movies
Right.
and TV. So people in Hollywood are pretty full of it. You have to be, and you have to have a really thick skin, because as many people may be a fan, that you obviously know, as soon as they allowed the internet to exist, people kind of express their vitriol, which was usually reserved for elementary school playground, but now grown adults are tossing insults at each other.
It is weird. Yeah, I agree.
It is. So it's tough to be, I don't want to say it's tough to be a star, but it's tough to be a star.
But back in those days, were you in like the teen beats and magazine? I thought I saw like you on one of those pictures, or like you posted on your Instagram or something. So you kind of had that little, there was a lot of those kind of magazines and stuff back in the day, right? Like
there were, and Teen Beat, Tiger Beat,
yeah,
16, and Sassy. Remember Sassy? No,
I never read any of them, but I remember seeing them at the grocery store and stuff. Yeah, it's just funny that you're in.
Because of Adventures of Babysitting, I happened to be in the premiere issue of Premiere Magazine and Sassy. These are like the opposite ends of the literature spectrum.
That's funny. So I'm assuming, like, how did you like avoid the pitfalls of so many other child actors? Because I'm assuming
I don't know.
Well, I mean, I'm assuming you were offered drugs at some point, but you said you never did drugs. You only drank. So how did you?
What kind? Where? How much? Who's the guy? Where do you get them?
Right?
Yeah, you're aware of it, and you're aware of it young, and you're aware that it can cause a problem for people.
Like how young? Neighbors. Do you remember like the first time you were offered drugs? Like how young were you? Like how young do they offer kids drugs?
8.
Really? Like kids are offering you, or like agents and adults, or what? Like managers?
Adults.
Jeez, that's scary.
I mean, but my mom was wise to it, so she told me about it before I ever stepped on a set. And then you're informed, and you can make a choice.
Wow, that's crazy. So, your first,
yeah, wouldn't it be in any career? You get to, I don't know, pick anything. There could be, a sinister element to any industry, anything, anywhere.
Definitely. Do you think they're cracking down on that kind of stuff more now, though?
On what?
On like drugs with kids. I mean, there's the Me Too thing. Like, they're cracking down on a lot of this, like, as you call it, sinister elements of that kind of thing.
I don't know how they could. Well, number one, it's rare on an actual set. There's quite a lot of people. Not that people haven't tried. Thank God I was kind of a wise kid. So the parents have a right to be within sight and sound of their child at all times. Exercise that right, no problem. Offset is where you get more functions, PR, management companies that'll focus on kids, and those people aren't necessarily vetted by the industry. And that's where most of the problems. Hey, I could get your kid in to see this casting director if you give him to me for a weekend. And parents sometimes are more than ready to go. Sure, all they see is the money and the kind of the end thing, and they'll even kind of lie to themselves. But people do that with sexual assault, drug addiction, alcohol addiction in any family.
Yeah,
you're going to have that kind of incredible dysfunction. Now flip it on an edge and make the 8-year-old the breadwinner, and everything kind of gets out of whack.
Yeah, definitely.
So I was very lucky. You'd ask how I avoided the pitfalls.
Yeah.
I know it was my mom who made me go to public school all the time. I got regular jobs as soon as I turned 18. I worked regular video stores. I telemarketed for AT&T. Anything to, pay the bills, put food on the table. And then you can go do the web series and the low budget stuff and the art films and not work for a year or two here and there.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about Hollywood, relying on it, but I've never quit, always in it.
That's good.
And yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about your movie. So all these TV shows, and then you started going to movies. I thought this was interesting. The first movie you technically did was The Fox and the Hound. But your family said, no, that doesn't count as a movie because you just did the voice. But that was a big movie, and you must have got pretty good residual from that one, right? Because it's still very popular, The Fox and the Hound.
Yeah, it is I think it's my highest box office movie.
Wow.
and it also had a re-release in some years after it originally came out.
88.
And so the and realistically, I think that the reason why my mother may have said that is because it is animated, and even Robin Williams couldn't get his name on the poster or really be associated with the character. Disney doesn't do that.
Yeah.
And they're great. I'm not denigrating Disney ever. I've worked for them dozens of times. I love them. I have a great relationship with Disney. They know exactly what they're doing. The story is the brand. And as an actor, you're just a little part of that story. So it doesn't help your career. You got to put it on your resume and you got to promote it. But, it's really just about that story, the Fox and the Hound, which is also Mickey Russell or Mickey Rooney and Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell, yeah.
The Hound was Corey Feldman, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you don't really think of, you do if you think of the cast, and you go, oh yeah, Pearl Bailey and Pat Buttram and Jack Albertson. But it's not about your face isn't on screen. It doesn't help although they did run us by the animators, me and Corey, to have our characters kind of look like a little bit, our eyes at least maybe look like us.
Oh,
so
that's cool.
And we say that's also show folk humor of like, I got a new show or something, and then there'll be some tragedy or reason the show is canceled, or there's always a dark element to it. I think to being a show folk, in that we really do sacrifice everything for moments. You to do it. There's the preparing, the doing it, and you have to kind of succumb completely. You can't be thinking about your bills, your taxes, or where did I put that file while you're standing on stage in front of a few other people.
No, definitely.
It demands kind of total commitment, and that isn't for everybody. And so to anyone that wants to be in show business, do it, try it, there's always something. Theater, local stuff, Civic Light Opera. There are, short films, student films that need actors and stuff. And so people can try it. And if it's not something they just absolutely love, then those challenges, I'll just call them that, to doing the art form. It's like being a Mad Hatter. Yes, you make beautiful hats, but the mercury poisoning might get to you after a while.
That's an interesting analogy. So this is interesting. So speaking of trying, you tried out for some of these big movies: E.T., Goonies, Stand By Me, Gremlins, Christmas Story. Are these lead roles that you're trying out for? Or are they like the what do you call them? Auxiliary character?
Oh,
lead roles.
Mouth. I went up for Elliot and Mouth. I went up for Lloyd Dobler, Farmer Ted. Stuff that you read the script and you go, I'm too young, or that's ridiculous. And
Farmer Ted from 16 Candles?
Yeah.
Oh, some of these, like, you just can't even picture anyone else doing that. Like Anthony Michael Hall just nails that. Which character in Stand By Me?
It was probably Will. It was probably Will
Wheaton's. Yeah, so he said that he wanted your role in Adventures in Babysitting.
He just wanted it. I think he wanted it to be in the movie. I don't know if he defined the role, but we were at an autograph convention. He looked down at my table and he goes, that one. And I'm like, what? He's like, I really wanted to be in Adventures of Babysitting. And I said to him, would you trade with me with Stand By Me?
Yeah.
And he goes, no. And I go, well, there you go. So, I certainly wanted to be in Stand By Me. You get what you're right for when you're right for it. An ungodly amount of luck. Just the right place at the right time. And yes, everybody that went up for something prepared and wanted it and could have done it and could have been right for it. But it's really got to fit the director, the studio, the story. You carry baggage with an actor. And my mom's goal was not to have me known for any like TV role that could spoil a movie career. So we try to stay out of, not stay out of, but maybe that's the reason why Seven Brides for the Seven Brothers wasn't important to her. By that time, we had kind of our eye on the big screen.
Okay.
And I'd already done a few, family shows that went a few episodes and, had pilots and then an order for a series. And this is funny. I'm talking these business terms, but I'm also doing this at 6. I'm like, what's our time slot?
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's a lot for a kid to take on. But you've seen kids become chess prodigies. You know, kids that are math prodigies figure out the stock market by the time they're 12 years old. And I think that kids are just very adaptable.
Yeah. Well,
They
so
can
is
see
it
a system
how
and then
much?
kind of learn how
I
to.
mean, it is still a job, but is it fun? I mean, when you're on Knight
It's
Rider as
always,
a kid and you're with the car, right? I mean, that's got to be like every kid's dream. Or is it like you're like, oh, here I go. I got to go to work and work on Knight Rider. I mean, what is it? Tell me what it's like being a kid and on these crazy TV shows that I love, like Growing Pains and stuff.
oh yes, oh no, every kid's dream. The especially the bigger Love Boat, Fantasy Island, Knight
Yeah.
Rider, those kinds of things they're huge. No one's paying attention to you on the set because there's a million things going on. You're just supposed to show up when they yell action and stand on your mark, get it right in 1 or 2 takes. It's a lot to do. In back then they shot hour-long shows. It took about 6 days. Now it takes 8 to 10, I think.
Mm.
So you're just very aware of the time element and the money involved. And as a rule, as a kid, you can be a kid and play around and stuff, but don't ever waste time or money on a set.
Okay.
And did that prevent me from being a kid? No, it was an add-on plus extracurricular. I got to surf, well, not really surf. Might hurt my face. There were things I was limited on doing that might be, physically traumatic to my visage. But I still did them anyway.
Did you get in trouble on these sets every now and then? Did you ever goof off and like do anything? No.
I'd heard rumors that I'd handcuffed a security guard to a cart, and I hunted a lot. Who? What? There tons of kid actors with the same bowl haircut, Jackie Coogan haircut. In the early '80s, everybody had it. I'm like, I absolutely did not do that. Please retract it. I don't need a rumor getting out like that. I am not a bad kid. I know bad kids in Hollywood, and
sure,
I'm not one of them. So I was pretty upset when like any rumor would come out of me. Like I've never misbehaved on a set. I loved it. I always loved doing it. Now sitcoms. You mentioned Growing Pains.
Yeah.
And with Laverne and Shirley, I think was my first. And Silver Spoons and Growing Pains, Just the 10 of Us, Raising Miranda, Sibs. Those were, I think, most of the live shows I did. And they weren't my palette. They weren't my canvas. It was, I like theater. I got that. And I like movies and TV. I got that. But blending it live audience and you're filming it, that really put my nerves on edge. And just hearing that audience and boom, your heart puts up in your throat. It is different. And so I didn't enjoy doing those. I was mostly nervous on any of those kind of live in front of an audience sitcom shows.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, let's talk about your big movie, Adventures in Babysitting. That's a cult classic. I didn't realize, it was funny, we watched it last night with my girlfriend. She's like, this is kind of like Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I'm like, yeah, actually, I heard the writer was inspired by watching that movie. Right?
Oh, yeah. I love that you've done your research because I know exactly which interviews you've actually read or watched.
It was a lot, yeah.
No, I really do appreciate this. I had heard, maybe I'd read it at one point, but it was almost like practically after watching Ferris Bueller's Day Off, he went home and banged out a draft.
Yeah.
And I see the similarities in starting at the home and ditching the parents, going around Chicago, a bunch of different locations that you never return to. They're always episodic. There's a French restaurant scene. There's a musical number scene. They beat the parents home just in time and clean up just enough.
That's right.
That I went, well, that's a road picture structure. It's just compacted into a few hours.
Yeah.
In Ferris Bueller's Day Off, it's 8 hours. For us, it's 3 or 4 hours. We packed this all in between, sundown and midnight. And it is interestingly, people use the word cult in that it was not a box office failure. It didn't lose money for the studio. The numbers were solid. Cost $8 or $10 million to make, and made 36 million or whatever it was. I don't think anybody would be upset with a $10 million investment than return $36 million. And it made more money than other movies like Lost Boys and stuff like that. But I appreciate that, because cult may have another meaning in that it just held up, or that
it still has a
loved
fans.
by genre.
Yeah. I think people that saw it when they were a kid probably showed their kids now, I would hope. But then again, I feel like it's interesting because I think Molly Ringwald, she came out recently and said that, she cringed at some of the scenes in Breakfast Club, like they were too crass. Do you think some of the scenes in Adventures in Babysitting are too crass for kids? Or, I mean, they do say fuck in it twice, which is kind of interesting. I thought you could only say fuck once in a PG-13, but they say it twice in the gang scene.
We argue that it's one instance of it.
Okay.
They're both back to back and in the same scene. It's
like
set up for its own joke.
Yes.
And that she pronounces it fuck. Don't fuck with and the MPAA just was like, all right, because you're allowed 2 shits and 1 fuck.
Yeah.
We also have bitch, and her legs are locked together at the knees. We have Thor's a homo, and so by today's standards, you have to take the time frame. If you're talking something that takes place in the 30s, they'll use a certain language. If it takes place in the 50s or the 60s, you'll use certain language that society says was okay at the time,
right?
Not okay. And the reason people are doing it, not okay, but they did it, and that's how people talked back then,
right?
And so go ahead and cringe at everybody, cringe at the United States, cringe at every single film in the 80s. It was so prevalent, sexism, racism, that it was openly done in movies for a laugh. How far are we from Step and Fetch It and Blackface and minstrel shows? And I don't think too far. People recognized it quick. They're like, wow, the media does have a huge responsibility. And so they really did start to cordon that off, smoking, language, to the bad guys. The bad guys can have this point of view. Our protagonists have to be pretty squeaky clean. And that, we don't really have anti-heroes. You're going to see a Dog Day Afternoon, or go into Escape from New York. Anti-heroes, they confuse us. Wait, there's this guy that does bad stuff, or girl but I like her, and I hope she wins.
Right.
So I love all that, and I love the controversy of it. My controversy is, my God, don't let your 8-year-old see Adventures in Babysitting. They'll go around all day. Shit. Let them see Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead first at 10, maybe, and then by 12 or 13, you could decide. Be in the room.
Yeah. Try
the TV version that doesn't have the language. See if they like it or something, but don't thrust. I mean, there's at least 5 really bad words that would not be allowed on prime time or in their content.
Yeah, and I also think kids don't even
danger, and kids felt like they were. Oh, the parents aren't watching.
Right.
They really know the languages that is in this. Sometimes they were plopped alone in the theater, and the parents went to go see Inner Space.
Right. Yeah, and I think probably a lot of that stuff went over my head as a kid, like Legs Locked. I probably had no idea what that meant, when I was 8 years old or whatever, and saw it. So, but you know what else was interesting about that? I think I heard you say, or the host say in one of your interviews, that it cost $50,000 to get just 16 bars of that Rolling Stones song for the movie.
Yeah, I don't know the exact numbers, but I do know they said the licensing costs for Gimme Shelter just before Mick Jagger's voice comes in, because that would have been a lot more money, was more than me and Anthony Rapp's combined salaries. And so that's how I kind of came at that number.
So being a rock star, that might be the way to go. If you can do the Rolling Stones and be the biggest band on the planet. Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. Let's talk about Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. Another cult classic, still has a following, still a lot of fans.
Yeah.
Tell me about your role in that, because you said you were kind of more of a nerd in real life. So, and you had like a flat top and you had to put on a wig and stuff. Did you base that character off of somebody that you knew in real life?
Yeah, it's funny. I lived next door to Fro Gardenier, who was, I want to say, one of the inspirations for Jeff Spicoli, because he went to school with Sean Penn, had so many mannerisms because when Sean, you know how Sean Penn, I watched this amazing interview. Sean Penn got Fast Times at Ridgemont High by approaching Amy Heckerling and saying, I have an idea for this. I know these kinds of guys. I grew up with them. And she goes, well, could you read it for me? And he goes, no, you'll see it when I step onto set.
Wow, that's pretty ballsy.
It's okay. Yeah. And he comes with not a caricature, and look who's playing it. Look at this Oscar-winning, completely serious actor.
Yeah.
Well, he knows this guy. That's the thing. I live next door to the real guy that he knew. So Spicoli's part of it. And then you also have the fun. It's the same director as Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Stephen Herridge.
Yeah.
So Bill and Ted had a lot of that kind of feeling. After the fact, after I did Don't Tell Him the Babysitter's Dead, I saw River's Edge, and I realized that Keanu Reeves and River's Edge is so close to what I was doing, which naturally comes with that. It's him who actually played, I don't even remember if he's Bill or Ted. That's kind of funny.
He's Ted, I think, yeah.
But also an actor that has the serious chops and everything, but he played one of, I don't know. I love it. I love when stuff keeps self-referencing back. I really need to do my third Babysitter movie just to complete the
trilogy. Exactly. So, you know what? This is like a weird question, but I don't even know if you know the answer. You must know the answer, actually, because so in all these like 80s and kind of early 90s movies, it always starts off with like a messy house or a messy something. And then they do that cleanup scene at the end and they clean out the garage, they paint the house. Do you guys go in and you find a messy house and then paint it up? Or did you find like a new house where the pool was all ready to go and then you made it dirty? How does that work? You know what I'm saying?
Well, you find a really beautiful house.
Okay.
You find a family that just hit the lottery and is about to go on vacation for months at a time. And I don't know what the rentals are, but they're, thousands a day to rent a house like that as a location. But it's often cheaper than renting a studio and building a set, maintaining that set, striking the set. You're paying for the set on the weekends when you're not even using it. So on location shooting, I love it because it is what it is. You're there. You're in the real location. You're not pretending, in some studio. And we shot the bulk of the movie was at the home.
Oh, really? Okay. So it's actually in the house. It's not a studio that made to look like a house.
We spent 2 months there. Yeah. We spent a month shooting all the exteriors and the office stuff, and then 2 months at the house. That's great because it becomes your home, and, you had your bedroom, and art department's amazing. They'll go and dress the whole house.
Yeah. And
we shot it in order, in continuity. You usually do that if you're at a diner location, you're going to shoot the first scene that happens at the diner at scene 10. And there's one later in the movie at scene 70. You're going to shoot that scene 10 scene first, just to have a feeling of continuity for the actors later when they shoot the second scene. Oh, they have their memory of that last scene. And it also helps as you age the house, whether it's breaking it down, it gets messier and messier and messier as mom's gone. And at one point as we realize we're a family of felons, we all come together and clean the thing up. So they took this nice house, they distressed it.
Okay.
Wrecked the yard, had a wash, repainted it ugly, had a wash that made it look dirty and filthy. They, the inside of the house was beautiful because it felt lived in. It looked naturally just gross. And what would happen if you have 5 kids? And the kitchen smelled. There was a lot of food on the set, and they left it there for weeks.
Jeez.
And weeks. Every time we went to the kitchen, it was awful.
Oh, yikes.
But, we started cleaning up, and that was the conceit of the movie for Tara and Neil. They said, a lot of these movies, the parents leave town and everything falls apart. And they said, what if we write a movie where the parents leave town and the kids get their shit together?
Yeah.
And that was kind of the basis of it.
That's a great movie. You know what else I love is the another movie you did. I actually owned this on VHS, Toy Soldiers, with Sean Astin and Will Wheaton. Were you friends with those guys before that movie, or did you become friends with them on the set? You already knew them from before?
No, I knew Sean, being a family friend with Sean Astin because his father was Gomez Addams and my grandfather was Uncle Fester. And so we knew them and Anna or Patty Duke. Oh, Jack loved Patty. For years. I mean, since we were kids, I knew Sean and Mackenzie. So that's old homecoming. And we'd circled each other. I'd gone up for Please Don't Hit Me, Mom, which Patty Duke directed. and Sean wound up booking as one of his first jobs. And I was like, that's just nepotism. And he goes, and Sean goes, yeah, well, my mom directed it. So it was kind of a lot. And I'm like, I get it. But he really wanted to do Chips because his dad, John Astin, wound up directing Chips episodes and directed when I was on. And he really wanted, to work with his dad as a director. So quid pro quo, my friend.
Yeah. And you have an idea for a sequel to that movie, right?
I love Will, by the way. I'm friends with Will prior to Toy Soldiers, and love him dearly. It's hard not to find somebody in Hollywood who's very worried about what car they're leasing or what zip code they're in or what kind of shoes they're wearing. And Will was never someone like that. And so Hollywood always seemed baffling, I think, to him. And but he's incredibly talented and successful at it. So he'd often stand there looking around going, this town is absolutely nuts. Just the job itself. He's less delusional than most of us other actors that choose to ignore the weirdness of being an actor and the incredible ups and downs. So I love Will dearly and got to work with him 3 times. Toy Soldiers, on Python, the snake movie with Robert Englund, and on a great Tales from the Crypt episode.
Oh, the Tales from the Crypt. Yeah, I love that show. I saw that you were on there. I was trying to figure out which episode it was. That must have been fun too, to do that one.
Andrew Divoff, who played that Luis Cali in Toy Soldiers, has become a friend, lifelong friend. And I think we'll even see him this weekend.
Oh, wow. That's really cool.
We call him Andy.
Yeah. So
if you touch the wires, they will explode.
I need to watch that movie again. And then you got
that was shot all on location at a school. The only thing they did for controlling it was they built the interior of the boys' dorm room.
Okay.
And the interior of the principal's office for at the end with Lou Gossett Jr. and the showdown where they blow Luis's head off. Those were built inside the school gym.
Oh, okay. Wow. That's so cool. That looks like, because looks like a fun movie to work on for sure. And then you got this role of the Tale of the Two Corys. Corey Feldman produced it. Now, are you friends with him as well? You played like a kind of a creepy guy who takes advantage of Corey Haim.
Yeah. Well, I've been friends with Feldman since we were, since prior to Fox and the Hound. I think I even was his hand model stand-in on a Mattel commercial at 6, 7 or something. And we circled each other for parts. We'd work together on The Kid with the Broken Halo with Gary Coleman and Robert Guillaume. And I had auditioned for another part. And Corey, I was executive producer, I think, in terms of licensing some material from his autobiography, Choreography. I think there's a couple of chapters in there that kind of crossed over on the Tale of Two Corys, which was another book that was licensed for that. And so I wound up getting that part, which was great, short scene. It was disturbing to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And, that made me very happy. I don't really play that, You
don't get to play the villain very much. Yeah.
Yeah. And I had to, you have to crawl into the shoes of a character and make it make sense. Otherwise there's just no connection between you and the character. And how do you play something, that in the piece is just so shocking and terrible. And so I did it a couple of different ways, and what takes they decided to use, it's just very funny because what was going on in the head is entirely different with what's on screen. But there's a way that certain things, like it's about Cyrano de Bergerac, great play. Cyrano doesn't enter for several scenes. He's set up. Oh God, he's so smart. Oh, what a fencer. Oh, what a war hero. What a sharp wit. And they keep setting him up. And then right before they're like, don't look at his nose. What? Boom, he comes on. So loaded that any actor could just stand there with the fake proboscis, and the audience is going to have that reaction because of the way it was written and the way it was set up.
Yeah, that's cool.
So Tale of Two Corys shocked the hell out of me.
Yeah.
I because of the confidentialities and because of the nature of the material, the sensitivity of telling their story. Because every kid in the industry, even incredibly similar types of careers, totally different families, different backgrounds, different history in the business, and different totally different experience. So my jaw was on the floor. I was weeping at the premiere. I didn't know that it was that bad for so many kids in the business. And
Wow.
I'd already heard from many women in the business. We'd already talked about a job that may have been really fun for me as a kid to work on, but maybe for an older actress, it wasn't as fun because there were Harvey Weinsteinish kind of issues going on that
Right.
as a kid, I'm oblivious to.
Right. Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Yeah. And also as adults, most adults are oblivious to any sort of, trauma going on. They're like, what's going on? The kid's playing. He's fine. No, kids are very afraid to talk about anything like that. So I was just shocked and really impressed with it. I thought that Lifetime did a great job with it. I love just total whorish entertainment. Totally love, Lifetime. Their movies are just great. They're just absolutely ridiculous and scandalous, but they're usually not that well made. That you're like, I thought it was really well done. I thought
I want to see that. So it's
really well done.
It's a Lifetime. I'll have to check that out then. Are you
so glad that they gave me a shot.
I heard that you're friends with Jake Busey. Did you guys work together, or how? Like, he is such a fascinating guy to me. Like,
up from 9 years old till 19, he was. Jake lived up the street, and Gary was a neighbor. I spent a lot of time over at Jake's house. And
what is that like, being at Jake Busey?
And Gabe Jarrett, who was a Mitch from Real Genius.
Right. Yeah, you said he's one of your good friends. But what's it like being at the Busey's house? Is Gary Busey, is he like that in real life, or is he tone it down?
Well, I think that I don't want to speak for Jake or Gary, but I know that Jake and Gary have expressed, and I've read interviews and stuff, that that Gary is different after his head injury, after his accident. And that, his personality has changed. He's still very Gary, but, the context, it's the early 80s, and Jake's one of my best friends. And so also because I already had my grandfather in the business, it's no big deal for me seeing the Oscar nomination thing on the wall, hearing about what job's next, what country he has to fly off to, what shots he has to get. It's just standard, hearing your friend's dad talk about inventory at the shop.
That's so weird to me. This is really cool.
It's weird. Yeah. But also there were more. It's funny. My mom was really worried about people taking advantage or suing you because you might have money or something like that. She was just always very careful. Gary was so smart. Jake, we wanted to build a huge half pipe in his backyard. Huge. I mean, we're going to get timber and build this planet and schematics and build this thing. And so we did, but he had all of the neighborhood kids sign insurance waivers to use it.
Wow.
And I was like, how off brand for Gary.
Yeah.
So he loved Polaroids. That's one thing that nobody knows is Gary Busey would, whenever Jake had a birthday party or whatever, that Gary would circle it with the Polaroid camera. So hopefully Jake or his mom, Judy, has these Polaroids, which are just a priceless little time capsule of Malibu and the Busey's house in the 80s.
That's awesome. You did the Jay and Silent Bob reboot. Can you explain? I heard you talking about this rule with the reboots. This is so fascinating to me. So it's a 35th year. Explain this. Something about the royalties revert back to the writer instead of the studio. So that's why they keep making all these reboots.
Yeah. There is some either Writers Guild decree that if studio doesn't do something with the property after so many years, kind of renewing that interest in the property, kind of like how the Spider-Man thing with Marvel, they had to make a new Spider-Man movie every couple of years, so they'd lose the license to it. Same with Fantastic Four. They will even make Fantastic Fours that are unreleasable, and it doesn't matter. They've fulfilled their contract to show interest in the license and to continue to do something with it.
Ah.
And so I really see this as this is a great opportunity. There's great nostalgia for the time period that just happens to sync up with, hey, if we happen to renew this, we get to hold on to the intellectual property rights.
Yeah, and so
no big deal. Not a big conspiracy theory. But
no, not a conspiracy. It's just interesting
that I'm starting to see the ones that are at the tail end. That
in
a few more years, you're going to lose it.
They remade
the project.
They remade Adventures in Babysitting. So do you think they'll remake or reboot Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead?
Yeah, they've announced it.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, they announced it.
Really?
They have writers on it. And I've expressed my interest. The entire cast would love to be involved.
Yeah, can't you get a cameo at least or something?
Nobody said we're in or anything like that.
Okay.
I had heard the filmmakers acknowledged that audiences today like it when the reboots and the remakes include the original cast or acknowledge its existence.
Exactly.
Just not a lampshade it. One quick thingy, and I'm
a cameo or
like
something.
That. And I don't think they're against that idea. So I'm going to keep doing the Hollywood hustle that I do, and continue to stay on message. That it'd be awesome if Kenny could come back.
That would be amazing. Would you have any other?
He's got a bakery shop, Weed Bakery Shop.
There you go. It's legal now.
Beautiful muffins and total space cakes.
Do you have any other projects on the horizon that's coming out?
Do have because of Jay and Silent Bob Reboot and the documentarian who did Josh Roush, who made Magnum Dopus, which is a great making of Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. Fantastic film, and it looks great. He made a feature, and I did it during COVID. I had COVID tests. Amazing cast coming up. Kind of a little dark comedy thriller, and I have a great part. I totally stoked. I also did the quarantine bunch with a bunch of child star friends, Jeremy Miller from Growing Pains, Judy Norton from the Waltons, Danny Pintaro from Who's the Boss?
Yeah.
Scotty Schwartz from Christmas Story and The Toy, and Dean McDermott, Tori Spelling's husband. Although not a former child star, we pretend he was. We invent a fake child actor that he used to be, because we're all playing fake versions of ourselves.
Okay.
We all are managing our former child starness differently.
Okay.
And we all have different healthy or non-healthy perspectives on what that means. So it's funny for Dean to come up with a fabricate. I think his first credit, he was 19 on IMDb. Okay. So he wasn't exactly a child actor, but
close enough.
I think he's been around enough to know what the story is.
Is it?
And then next is, I don't know, I continue to audition. Fantastic agent. I am just grateful for that being in the game. I'm going to go pay my SAG dues in a minute, as they're due tomorrow. Just keep your head up. I love it. I think there's great opportunities now to make your own stuff.
Yeah.
And the democratization of it, cheaper camera equipment, lighting stuff. SAG, Screen Actors Guild, has lots of contracts that are easier to work with for filmmakers to use SAG talent. All of that is coming together perfectly to help a 50-year-old white man try to have a comeback in his career today.
Yeah, and you're doing the Comi-Cons. I mean, before the pandemic and stuff, you like that, and so that's a lot of fun.
Oh, how fun! And if only anybody knew, they're not that niche. They're not that genre. Yes, there's people that spend godless amounts of money on time on preparing cosplay outfits for a weekend.
Right.
You don't have to go that nuts. General admission to some sort of autograph convention or Comic-Con, if you've never been, they're just so fun. They're incredibly, because I mean, there's just so many t-shirts and things and celebrities, artists, writers, filmmakers, that there's just so much to love about movie making and TV and comics, that it doesn't matter. Even small shows with just a few celebrity guests, try it out. It's such a great shared experience. I know we can't do it now during COVID.
Yeah.
Some conventions have moved forward with smaller attendance, with social distancing, masks, all that stuff, no selfies. But you can still have that kind of one-on-one time with somebody.
Cool.
Because look, it's so funny. You could pass up a Clint Eastwood and be like, oh my God, it's Bobcat Goldthwait. You don't know who is your jam.
He's a great director, by the way. Yeah. I don't know if you've seen his direction.
Of course.
Yeah. He's amazing.
Like Shakes the Clown or God
The
Bless America.
God Bless America. That was, or the Bigfoot one that he did that was kind of low budget, but it was really well done. He's a
Didn't see that,
genius.
but he is one of the most subversive filmmakers ever.
Yeah.
I love in Shakes the Clown when they're driving and he is with his friends and he pukes out the car, and puke is just, spilling out the back of the convertible. and they turn to him and they go, Shakes, we think you have a drinking problem. And Shakes goes, you know what? I think I have a lot of friends who are a bunch of assholes.
Oh, that's great. And people can go on your website.
Bobcat's great. He was there on my opening night as a comic. And Bobcat was backstage.
Wow.
Talking to
where did you perform? Which venue?
It was at West Side Comedy off of 3rd Street Promenade in Santa Monica.
Oh, cool.
It's in an alley. You go behind the bank, look for the red dumpster, ask for Tony.
Okay.
And it's a little, 50, 75 seat theater thing, and they turn it over. You don't just sit all day. It's $5 a show or $10 a show, and every hour they just turn it over for something new. It's a neat space.
That sounds fun.
But Bobcat, I'm just dying. I've seen him at Magic Mountain in the 80s with a bunch of child actor friends.
Virgin Sacrifice.
Virgin Sacrifice is the name. And on YouTube, they have a bunch of Virgin Sacrifices. You have to have never done stand-up comedy before.
Oh.
And you had to have written your own act. And you can see these online. They're great.
That's funny. And then people can go on your website, keithcooganonline.com.
Yep.
And they can get, you sell a plate that says the dishes are done, man, and you sign it, right?
I do. Do I have a sample here? No, I have some dish orders to get out right now. I've got autographed photos, and I do sign dishes.
That's
dishes
awesome.
Are done, man.
Thank you. And you're not annoyed having to say that catchphrase or whatever, like some other actors, right?
I don't. You know what? That fascinates me because I'd like to know which actors, who's annoyed by it. What's the line?
Gary Coleman. I'm sure he didn't want to say like what you talking about Willis all the time, right?
How do you think Todd Bridges feels when it's not even his line?
True.
I don't know, and I want to ask them. I think that's fascinating.
It is fascinating.
I personally love it.
Yeah.
It's going to be on my goddamn headstone. Here lies Keith Coogan. Dishes are done, man. And my job as an actor is to keep endeavoring at a career. Maybe replace that quote. And if not, I've got one.
There you go. Better than
happy to have one. It's great. And I'm also grateful that that's not it.
Right.
I do have great TV work.
So much stuff.
Other films that, that if you took that one away, I'd still have this amazingly blessed career.
Absolutely.
But I think Don't Tell Mom is the one I'm recognized most from. And trust me, friends with Joanna Cassidy, she's amazing. And she also is really surprised at how people loved Rose Lindsay. And right on top of that, Rose.
Yeah.
She gets quoted more on Don't Tell Mom than Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Blade Runner. It boggles the mind that this is the thing that sticks out for people, I think that's amazing.
Like, how often do you just, when you're getting coffee or going to lunch or something, do people go, "Hey, the dishes are done"? Like, how often does that happen?
So I'm at a funeral in Utah, family friend and stuff. And we're there, and it's a church. And then after the service, there's like a little reception in the basement. There's a rec area under the church. And they've got the punch and the thing and snacks. And gentleman comes up to me kind of somber, and he goes, could you just say it once? Just once. At a funeral.
Oh,
so of course I'm like, dishes are done, man. And it's fine. Everyone's, relaxed. They were all actually laughing because they knew he had fanboyed out on me and wanted to talk to me. Yeah. They were just waiting for the moment. And so I thought that was hysterical.
That's funny. Yeah, you got a good outlook on it. I like it. Yeah, it's very cool. Well, I like to always end with a charity. And you mentioned, what is it? Reading is fundamental.
Yeah, reading is fundamental. I started reading at a young age, probably at 3. My mother sat with me and read. And Reading is Fundamental provides books to schools and other organizations that'll get them into the hands of kids.
Wow.
And they're, all parent-approved books. You don't have to worry about, are you there, God? It's me, Margaret, winding up in a kid's hands. But
okay.
I am yeah, I really believe that that is one of the things that could help kids is they get attacked with information from their parents and from their teachers and from media and television. They're spending 6 to 8 hours a day on the screen.
Yeah.
And I think building worlds in your mind and really learning the art of our language and how powerful our language is. Reading is fundamental. So raf.org, raf.org, give what you can. And we do events where celebrities go to schools and read Hop on Pop or Cat in the Hat.
Oh, that's great.
And there, to me, to do that in front of school kids, that brought full circle to me, being a kid and being entertained. And I think reading is a part of it. If you ever want to be an actor,
yeah,
you're going to have to study and research and learn technique. And it takes the same discipline as learning any other kind of degree. You really have to study the history of it, the technique of it, and get practiced at it. Or you could be a natural and kind of learn as you go. And so to answer your first question, no, I never did do acting classes. I tried them at 15 or 16 because people were doing it, but it never stuck. I had one workshop, Dennis Kelly's workshop, that was different. It was you get a scene and you have 50 minutes to learn it. Off book. Pick your props, your things, put it up on stage in front of the class. You get notes, and that's it. You bury it. You never do the scene again.
Wow.
I didn't like acting classes that worked on the same scene week after, because that's not realistic.
Yeah, that's true.
Unless you're doing a play where you're running a show.
No, I think that's cool.
Case, I'm doing the same scene week after week. Pay me.
Yeah, I think the best way to learn something is just jump in and do it, and that's what you did, and you just got better and better as you went and kept going, and you're still going.
And I got to learn from people. One of my first jobs, Viewmaster Viewer, Henry Fonda. And then I worked with Samantha from Bewitched, or then the cast of the Waltons and the cast of Klug Gulager was a big influence. I did a movie of the week with him and Jenna Rollins and Jane Alexander, where he played a father trying to split up my lesbian mothers because they got in a divorce. And this was in the 70s.
Wow, that's progressive.
Incredibly controversial. And I also did Battered with Mike Farrell and Karen Grassel. I also had LeVar Burton and Chip Fields, Kim Fields' mother. So I remember being on the set, and this little girl, Chip's daughter, and this is before Facts of Life. I remember Lisa Bonet approaching me at a party and asking how to get into the business. How do you get an agent? How do you do this? And I'm usually pretty open with that kind of stuff. I'll tell people, this is how you do it. This is what it takes. It's not a secret. I'm not trying to hide it or keep it from other people. It's hard enough. But I think that there are so many people that have a talent in there to tell stories and be interesting to look at. Interesting, beautiful, cute, ugly, something that makes audiences kind of pay attention. The homogeneity of a lot of the kind of white, male, young, athletic leads has been shattered by a prayer for more representation on screen. Sure. And it's changing what a hero is and what a protagonist is, and storytelling. Not what it is. We're changing. We're kind of adapting to understand that the white male's voice was just one voice.
Absolutely.
And yes, we had a good run in the 80s where every single story was about white suburbia. Just calling it like it is. Right. Because of that, I worked a lot as a kid. I had a very healthy movie career, pretty much predicated on scared white suburban kids. So I am more than willing to play that baffled suburban dad trying to adapt to the new world, because I myself am 50 years old, never had an idea really, what you're doing in this business. You just know that you keep yourself kind of grounded and regular if you can. Yep. So that when it calls on you, you can drop everything, put on a costume, and kind of, you get the opportunity to do that, to me. So I'm just grateful, very lucky. And I continue to be lucky in that I'm still going. Yeah. And
it'll be exciting. Yeah. Well, exciting to follow your career. Thank you so much for doing this. And
thanks, Chuck.
I'll talk to you soon.
Great interview, great research.
Thank you.
A+.
Thank you
on having done great research.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. Bye-bye.
You're awesome. Have a good one.
All right. Later. Keith Coogan. Oh man, that was a lot of fun to fanboy out with him. I was a big fan, and it's always a bit surreal to talk to these people that seem so untouchable when you're a kid. Like if I could go back in time and tell my younger self, hey, one day you're going to interview this guy that you're watching in this movie right now, and he's even going to tell you that you did a great job at it. I mean, that'd be crazy. So thank you to Keith. Make sure to follow him and keep up to date with what he's doing. I'm excited for Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead reboot. I think it could actually be a lot of fun, and I'm sure he's going to do a lot of other cool stuff. I kind of want one of those dishes. I think that might look good on my wall. I don't know. Thank you all for listening. You can follow me on social media or subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen or watch it. And remember, shoot for the moon.